They say silence is golden. In my experience, that's a lie. Silence isn't gold. Silence is survival. Growing up in a house filled with the noise of my father's lies, his frantic phone calls to bookies, his weeping apologies, his manic promises that this next hand would change everything, I learned early on that words were traps. If you speak, you can be lied to. If you speak, you can be broken. But if you stay silent, you become a fortress. I didn't know how much I would need that fortress until the night the debt came due. It was a Tuesday in Yokohama. I had just finished teaching my last English class of the day. I loved Japan. I loved the order, the politeness, the safety. I thought I had escaped the chaos of my life back in Chicago. I thought I was free. But you can't outrun your blood. When I got home to our small apartment, the door wasn't locked. It was splintered. 2 men in dark suits were waiting in the kitchen. They didn't look like police. They didn't look like thieves. They looked like sharks in human skin. My father was on his knees in the center of the room, his face bruised, snot and tears running down his chin. "Nia," he sobbed when he saw me. "Nia, baby, tell them. Tell them I'm good for it." I dropped my bag. I didn't scream. I just looked at the men. "He owes 40 million yen, one of the men said. His Japanese was rough, street slang. "The Satogumi is tired of waiting." 40 million. Nearly $400,000. My father had gambled away our lives. "Take her," my father screamed suddenly, pointing a shaking finger at me. "She's young. She's American. She's worth money. Take her as collateral until I get the cash." The air left the room. I looked at the man who had raised me. The man I had moved across the ocean to support. And I watched him sell me like a used car to save his own skin. That was the moment my voice died. I decided, right then and there, that I wouldn't give them the satisfaction of a scream. I wouldn't give my father the absolution of a goodbye. And I certainly wouldn't give these criminals the pleasure of hearing me beg. I locked my jaw. I swallowed my fear. And I went silent. 10 minutes later, a black sedan pulled up to the warehouse they had dragged us to. The sharks straightened their ties. The atmosphere shifted from violence to reverence. Kenji Sato walked in. He wasn't what I expected. You hear stories about the Yakuza, missing fingers, loud suits, aggression. Kenji was none of that. He was elegance weaponized. He wore a black 3-piece suit that cost more than my father's lifetime earnings. No tie. The collar of his white shirt was unbuttoned, revealing just the hint of dark ink, traditional Irizumi tattoos, creeping up his throat like smoke. He didn't look at the thugs. He didn't look at my weeping father. He looked at me. His eyes were obsidian. Bottomless. Cold. He walked a slow circle around me, his leather shoes silent on the concrete floor. He smelled of rain, expensive tobacco, and sandalwood. "This is the payment?" he asked. His voice was a low baritone that vibrated through the floorboards. "Yes, Oyabun, boss," the thug said. "The father offers her." Kenji stopped in front of me. He reached out a gloved hand and gripped my chin. His grip was firm, possessive, but not painful. He tilted my face up to the light. "American," he noted. "You are far from home, little bird." I stared into his eyes. I didn't blink. I didn't pull away. "Scream," he whispered. It was a test. I could see it in his eyes. He wanted to see if I would break. He wanted to see if I was just another weeping victim. I tightened my lips. I stared right back at him, pouring every ounce of hatred, fear, and defiance I had into my gaze. "No," I thought loudly. "You don't get that." The silence stretched. 5 seconds. 10. 20. The thugs shifted nervously. My father whimpered. But Kenji didn't get angry. His eyes narrowed. A flicker of something passed across his face. Not annoyance. Fascination. He dropped his hand. Interesting, he murmured. He turned to his men. The debt is cleared. Get the father out of my sight. If he enters Tokyo again, kill him. And the girl, Oyabun? Kenji adjusted his cuffs, looking back at me one last time. She comes with me. I was dragged to the car. I was shoved into the leather back seat next to the most dangerous man in Japan. And through it all, I didn't utter a single sound. The drive took an hour. We left the neon chaos of Yokohama and entered the sleek, towering heart of Tokyo. Then, we went further, into the winding, private hills of Roppongi where the old money lived. Kenji didn't speak to me during the ride. He worked on a tablet, typing messages, occasionally making a quiet phone call in rapid-fire Japanese that sounded like commands. He ignored me completely. It was more insulting than if he had threatened me. To him, I was just a piece of luggage. An object acquired to balance a ledger. We arrived at a massive gate made of iron and dark wood. Cameras tracked the car. Armed guards bowed as we passed. The estate was breathtaking. A modern fortress designed to look like a traditional ryokan. Bamboo gardens, stone paths, koi ponds, all surrounded by 20-foot walls topped with sensors. The car stopped. The door opened. Out, Kenji ordered. I stepped out. The air was cleaner here. High above the smog. A row of servants was waiting. An older woman in a kimono bowed low. This is Mama-san, Kenji said, not looking at me. She will clean you. Dress you. Feed you. He finally turned to face me. The lights of the house illuminated the sharp angles of his jaw, the cruelty of his mouth. You are not a guest, Nia. But you are not a prisoner in a cell. You have the run of the house. But if you try to leave the walls... He gestured to the guards by the gate. They didn't look like the clumsy thugs at the warehouse. These men stood perfectly still. They looked like soldiers. They will not hesitate, he finished softly. Do you understand? I looked at him. I understood perfectly. I nodded once. Sharp. Professional. He seemed disappointed that I didn't beg. Take her, he waved a hand. I was led away. I was scrubbed raw in a steaming ofuro bath. I was dressed in a silk robe that felt like water against my skin. I was given food that cost more than my rent, fatty tuna, wagyu beef, gold leaf sake. I ate it all. I wasn't going to starve myself. Starving is for martyrs. I needed strength. I needed to be sharp. Because I had a plan. I would wait. I would watch. I would find the weakness in this fortress. And I would do it without saying a word. 3 weeks passed. 3 weeks of luxury. 3 weeks of imprisonment. And 3 weeks of absolute silence. I hadn't spoken to the maids. I hadn't spoken to the guards. And I certainly hadn't spoken to him. It was driving them crazy. The maids whispered about me when they thought I couldn't understand Japanese. Is she broken? One asked. Maybe she is simple. Minded, another replied. No, the older Mama-san said. Look at her eyes. She is not simple. She is plotting. She was right. But the person it bothered the most was Kenji. Every night at 7 p.m., he required my presence at dinner. It was a ritual. We sat across from each other at a low table in his private quarters. He would dismiss the servants. He wanted to be alone with me. Tonight was no different. Sound FX, chopsticks resting on ceramic. Kenji pouring sake. Kenji, the sashimi is fresh. Flown in from Hokkaido this morning. I picked up a piece. I ate it. I stared at the wall behind him. He sighed. It was a sound of irritation. My men tell me you read 3 books a day, he said, swirling his sake cup. English literature. Philosophy. You are clearly educated. He leaned forward. The dragon tattoo on his neck flexed. So why do you act like a mute animal? I moved my gaze to his. I kept my face blank, devoid of emotion. I am not an animal, I thought loudly. I am a mirror. I am showing you exactly what you bought. An object. Objects don't speak. Speak to me, he commanded. His voice dropped, becoming dangerous. Ask for something. Ask for your freedom. Scream at me. Call me a monster. I took a sip of tea. He slammed his hand on the table. The dishes rattled. Do you think this is a game? He hissed. Do you think you are winning? I tilted my head slightly. Yes, my eyes said. I am. He stood up abruptly, pacing the room. He looked like a caged tiger. I could force you, he said, turning back to me. I could hurt you until you scream. I didn't flinch. I knew, somehow, that he wouldn't. Kenji Sato was a killer, yes. He was a criminal. But he wasn't a sadist. He had too much pride to torture a woman just to hear her voice. He saw that I wasn't afraid. It infuriated him. He marched over to me, grabbing my shoulders and hauling me to my feet. What do you want? He shouted, shaking me once. Everyone has a price. Everyone wants something. What is it? Money? A plane ticket? Your father's life? I looked at his chest. I looked at the silk of his shirt. Then I looked up at his face. I reached out, slowly, deliberately, and straightened his collar. It was a small gesture. Dismissive. Domestic. Insolent. Kenji froze. He stared at me, his chest heaving. He looked confused. Then, slowly, the anger drained out of his face, replaced by that look of fascination again. He let go of me. He stepped back, running a hand through his hair. You are. He trailed off. You are infuriating. He walked to the door. Tomorrow, he said, not looking back. We try again. He slid the door shut. I sat back down. My heart was hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. My hands were shaking. I poured myself another cup of tea. Round 1 to the silent girl. My days were victories. My nights were defeats. In the daylight, I could keep my walls up. I could be the stoic statue. But in sleep? The walls crumbled. The nightmares were always the same. The warehouse. The men. My father pointing his finger at me, screaming, "Take her. Take her," over and over again. The feeling of being drowning in black water. I woke up gasping, sweat soaking through my nightgown. I sat up, burying my face in my hands, trying to slow my breathing. In for 4. Out for 4. The door to my room slid open. I froze. Kenji was standing there. He wasn't wearing his suit. He was in a dark sleeping yukata, his hair messy, his eyes alert. He held a katana in one hand, unsheathed. I heard a noise, he said, his voice rough with sleep. I thought. He scanned the room. He saw no assassins. No intruders. He saw me. Shaking. Crying silent tears. He lowered the sword. A nightmare, he realized. I wiped my face quickly, turning away from him. I didn't want him to see this. He couldn't see me weak. But he didn't leave. He walked into the room. He sheathed the blade and set it by the door. He knelt beside my futon. "Nia," he said softly. I refused to look at him. "Look at me." He reached out, hesitant this time, and touched my shoulder. His hand was warm. I turned. "Your father?" he gasped. I nodded. Just once. A tiny movement. Kenji's expression darkened. "He is a weak man," Kenji said. "A parasite. He does not deserve your tears." He reached out and brushed a tear from my cheek with his thumb. The motion was surprisingly gentle for a man who killed for a living. "You are safe here," he said. The words hung in the air. Safe? I thought. "I am your prisoner." As if reading my mind, he shook his head. "You think I am the monster," he whispered. "Maybe I am. But inside these walls, nothing touches you. Not the debt collectors. Not your father. Not the world." He stayed there for a long time, just watching me until my breathing slowed. "Go back to sleep," he said finally. He stood up and picked up his sword. "I will stand guard outside the door." And he did. I saw his shadow on the paper screen of the door all night long. The Yakuza boss, guarding his collateral from bad dreams. It was confusing. It was terrifying. And, God help me, it made me feel safe. The illusion of safety shattered 3 days later. It was a Tuesday afternoon. I was in the library, a beautiful room filled with rare first editions. The first sign of trouble was the sound of the front gate exploding. The blast shook the house. Books fell off the shelves. Then came the gunfire. I dove under the heavy mahogany desk, covering my head. I heard screams. The servants running. The guards returning fire. Rival clan, I realized. A hostile takeover. The door to the library burst open. I held my breath, peeking out from under the desk. It wasn't an enemy. It was Kenji. He looked like a demon. His suit jacket was gone. His white shirt was stained red. He had a gun in one hand and his katana in the other. "Nia," he roared. "Where are you?" He was looking for me. He wasn't running to the safe room. He was looking for me. "Here," I wanted to say. But the habit of silence was too strong. I knocked on the wood of the desk. He spun around. He saw me. "Get up," he shouted, running over. "We have to move. The perimeter is breached." He grabbed my hand, pulling me up. Suddenly, a shadow lunged from the balcony door. A man in a black mask. He had a knife. Kenji was faster. He raised his gun, click. Empty. The assassin lunged. Kenji blocked the knife with his forearm, slash, blood sprayed. He grunted, dropping the gun. They crashed into the bookshelf. It was a brutal, ugly fight. Fists, knees, teeth. Kenji was strong, but he was wounded. The assassin was fresh. The assassin kicked Kenji's knee, sending him crashing to the floor. The man raised the knife for the killing blow. Kenji looked up. He didn't look afraid. He looked furious. Time slowed down. I stood there. I could run. The door was open. I could run out, find a car, and disappear. I could be free. All I had to do was let him die. I looked at the assassin. I looked at Kenji. No. I didn't think. I reacted. I grabbed a heavy bronze statue from the desk. I didn't scream. I didn't announce myself. I moved with the silence I had perfected. I brought the statue down on the back of the assassin's head with everything I had. Crack. The man crumbled like a puppet with cut strings. He fell on top of Kenji. Silence returned to the room, broken only by Kenji's heavy breathing. He shoved the unconscious body off him. He sat up, clutching his bleeding arm. He looked at the assassin. Then he looked at me. I was standing there, chest heaving, holding the bloody statue. My hands were shaking violently now. Kenji stood up slowly. He ignored his wound. He walked over to me. He took the statue from my hands and set it down. "You stayed," he whispered. He sounded stunned. "You could have run." I looked at him. My eyes burned with tears. "I couldn't," I thought. "I hate you. But I couldn't let you die." He reached out with his good hand and cupped my face. His thumb smeared a drop of the assassin's blood on my cheek. "My silent warrior," he murmured. He leaned his forehead against mine. I didn't pull away. For a moment, in the middle of the wreckage, we just breathed together. "Come," he said, pulling back. "It's not over." He dragged me to the hidden panic room behind the bookcase. But the dynamic had shifted. I wasn't just Collateral anymore. I was his partner. We spent 6 hours in the panic room waiting for his reinforcements to clear the house. I stitched his arm. I had learned basic first aid back in Chicago. Kenji watched me work. He didn't wince as I cleaned the deep slice on his forearm. "You have gentle hands," he said quietly. I tied off the bandage. I sat back. "Why did you save me, Nia?" It was the question I was dreading. I looked at him. I wanted to tell him. I wanted to say, "Because you are the only person who sees me. Because my father sold me, but you protected me." But the words were stuck. The silence was still my shield. I reached out and traced the dragon tattoo on his neck. Kenji closed his eyes at my touch. He leaned into my hand. "You don't have to speak," he whispered. "I hear you." He opened his eyes. They were burning with intensity. "I made a mistake," he said. "I treated you like a debt. Like an object." He took my hand and kissed the knuckles. "You are not a debt. You are the only real thing in my life. Stay with me," he said. "Not as a prisoner. As my equal. I will give you the world. I will burn Tokyo down for you. Just stay." He waited. I looked at the door. The reinforcements were outside. I could leave now. He would let me go. I knew it. I looked at the man who had bought me, threatened me, and then bled for me. The man who was obsessed with my silence, but understood it better than anyone. I made my choice. I opened my mouth. My throat felt dry. Amused. Rusty. But for the first time in weeks, I didn't want to be a fortress. I wanted to be heard. I leaned close to his ear. And I finally broke the silence. "Kenji," I whispered. It was the first time I had said his name. His eyes went wide. The sound of his name on my lips seemed to shatter him. "Say it again," he breathed. "Kenji," I said, stronger this time. "I'm not going anywhere." He didn't smile. He looked at me with a hunger that terrified me and thrilled me. "Good," he growled. And then he kissed me. It wasn't a gentle kiss. It was a claim. It was a promise. I was sold to the Yakuza boss. I refused to speak. But now? Now, I think I'm going to be the one giving the orders. That was part 1 of Sold to the Yakuza. Nia broke her silence, and unleashed the beast. But now that she's chosen to stay, the real danger begins. The rival clan is still out there. And they know Kenji has a weakness now. Her. If you want to see how the Silent Queen rules the Tokyo underworld, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Let me know in the comments, did Nia make the right choice staying with Kenji? Or should she have run when the gate exploded? Type hashtag Team Yakuza or hashtag Team Run below. Welcome to Mafia Heartbeat. The silence is over.